Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride this week, we have Dean, and we have our very special guest this week, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Donovan Lee. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Very good.
Hey, Mark.
All right. So, we had a very interesting week. I'm not going to... Well, we'll discuss it as we run through the games. There's things that can be said, but we're just going to let the interview and the discussions play itself out as we run through the games this week. So, first, from the staff, I want to welcome Donovan coming onto the show this week. Obviously, you guys know his team is red hot. So, when we go into our middle segment, we're going to do a quick interview with him and talk about his history with the game and some generic stuff regarding his prep time and trying to pick his brain to figure out what makes his team go this week, and maybe you can try to get a little insight into that. So if you guys are ready to go, we are going to jump right into this. First game we have on the list, we have Denver hosting New England. Everybody was wondering, was Denver going to keep that train rolling? And evidently they have, as they ended up taking this game 37-20. We are going to start this off with Dean.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing before commenting on this game. You notice the player of the week is Daniel Jones, the quarterback of New York, and the Giants, that is. That probably doesn't surprise anyone, and we'll get to that. As for this game, New England is definitely struggling this season, to say the least. They, at this point, are 0-5. They're the only team without a win now as of this week. And at 15 first downs, only 5 of them rushing. Then they rushed fairly well. I mean, 5.7 yards. No, it's 4.1. I'm looking at the wrong number. A little over 100, but not as well as Denver did. But Denver pretty much dominated them. Better passing, better rushing. Just pretty much played a much stronger game overall and easily won this game by 17 points.
All right. Donovan, what'd you see?
Yeah, well, I mean, Denver ran all over them. Patriots gave up a couple of inopportune picks, and Denver capitalized. And, what's scary to me is that Brian, being a new coach, has just, jumped right in and is competitive in most facets of the game. And if he's been busy doing, this programming for the league, I can't imagine if he's, devoting full time to his PPPs, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in a season or two.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he's already on that path right now. So, hey, he took me out, or took my team out last week. So I think he's finally got his feet up underneath him. So I think that rest of the league should be put on notice. Next game up, we have our overtime game for this week. We have Indy hosting Jacksonville and ended up taking this one in a thriller, 30-24. Donovan.
I thought these guys would be pretty evenly matched, and that's what it showed on the field. What surprised me was that Indy passed the ball so much. I mean, he put the ball up a ton of times, and he only ran a dozen times or so. But, in the end, it was a big run play, 35 yards that gave him the win. So kudos to him.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, this was another game we watched it on Discord, and the Jacksonville started off 2-1 in the season. They were looking pretty good, and they've been struggling a bit the last couple of weeks. In this game, they were competitive in this game, went back and forth, but it seemed that Indianapolis had an answer every time they needed to, including that play at the end, and they held on to win this game. And Indianapolis really needed this game. They kind of struggled a bit early in the season, so we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting race for second place, probably between these two teams. It looks like New England is probably not really going to be a factor in the NFC East this season, and the Jets are as you like to say, the Jets do what the Jets do. And, look at this game. We're starting to, it's easy to think that maybe Jacksonville and New England do what Jacksonville and New England do. So.
All right. Next game up, I guess, I don't know. I guess you could call this one an upset. I don't know. I'm going to be kind of interested on your guys' take as we have Chicago hosting Houston, and definitely that bunker that Mitch is in, or that secret mission that he's in, he is definitely making the most out of it, as he ended up taking this game 29-24. The player of the game, believe it or not, was his kicker. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what you guys take on this one. Dean, starting with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't bury the lead. That's the lead story right there. The kicker is the player of the game. And you know how much Mitch's teams have struggled with kicking field goals? And this guy, he kicked
5 for 5.
Made every single one of them, including a 48 long yard. And that was the margin of victory. They only win this game by 5 points. Missed 2 of those field goals, and Chicago wins a 24-23 game. Yeah, I guess it is somewhat an upset. I mean, I think anytime anyone beats Chicago, except for maybe the Jets, you can still call it an upset. And, Houston just played them very tough. And, I remember Mitch saying he wasn't sure how this game was going to go, because when he ran practice games, he lost games, he won games, by equal margins. And I've seen that so many times in preparing for games. It's amazing. There's so many random factors that can go either way in the way this game is simulated by Football Pro, that you can have the same game plans and profiles on each side, and games look very different. But, you usually see when you're running practice games, if you're winning most of them, then you probably have a better than 50% chance of winning. So I get the impression that those games that Mitch was watching in practice were probably pretty competitive, and, his team managed to do one of the things it needed to do, including kicking field goals, including more total net yards than Chicago, and a bit better third down efficiency, which always helps. You have to sustain drives to beat Chicago, and just barely, not barely, but winning the time of possession with 32 minutes and 41 seconds. So it was a pretty solid performance by Houston, and a good win. And after the upset earlier in the season by Philly, then, they certainly needed to win a game that maybe some expected them to not win, make up for losing a game they probably shouldn't have lost.
All right.
So,
Donovan, what do you got?
I had fun watching this game. I really expected Chicago to win it, if for nothing else, because I know how much preparation Mitch puts in during the week. And since he's been away, I just assumed that, he didn't do his normal routine, which would give Chicago the edge. But, hats off to him for coming up and coming up big. But it was fun to watch. I know at the end of the game, Chicago had it with under 2 minutes left, and they had like a first down, and they threw like a 50-yard pass, and they just missed it. And I thought, oh, okay, that's the game. And then on third down, their receiver come up with a 50-yard catch, and then immediately fumbled the ball, and that was it. But I don't know how Mitch wasn't having a heart attack at that point.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he was. Next game, we have the New York Jets hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. And as we say over here, the Jets do what they do, as they took this game 40-23. Dean, you're up.
yeah, this was I was expecting the Chargers to have a chance at an upset here, but they just didn't quite do it. The Jets were just very strong in all phases and played fairly well. I mean, LA had a little bit more rushing yards, but didn't even come close. It wasn't even half of the passing yards that the Jets had. So the Jets were just much stronger offensively and pretty good defensively, and managed to come up with a win here. And I think, LA is kind of re-examining things, and Steve I'm sure he'll get things back together and will be very competitive through the rest of the season. But this was a tough break for the visiting team here in this game.
Yeah, I think that definitely was a challenge for them. Obviously, when you go in and you play those guys, play the Jets anyway, it's always going to be an uphill climb. And I know that they were really working on trying to get their game plan straightened out with LA, and just got a little bit more work to do. But then again, it is the Jets. So, Donovan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you're up.
Yeah, this game was interesting. It was a little closer by halftime. They were tied. But, even when you can, have a good first half against the Jets, I've seen this many times where, somebody is playing them competitively, but in the second half, I mean, they just pull away. I mean, their PPPs are so solid, so strong that eventually they, overcome any adversity or bad bounces, and that's exactly what happened. You just have to have a really strong game plan and a lot of luck to beat these guys.
Definitely. Next game we have up, we have Las Vegas hosting Pittsburgh. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Pittsburgh is on a roll as they took this one from Vegas 34-28. We're going to start with you, Dean.
Yeah, I was expecting Las Vegas to be tough in this game because Las Vegas is much improved. I think last year we thought that Pittsburgh was kind of up and down. I know sometimes they would lose a game we expected them to win and then win a game that we didn't think Pittsburgh would win. But I think Pittsburgh really showed us something here. And, over 400 yards of total offense, ran the ball better than Las Vegas did, passed the ball better. And Las Vegas is still pretty tough, but, ended up being a 6-point game, but a pretty solid overall effort by the Steelers. And I think we're going to see this team probably go to postseason this year.
All right, Coach Lee, what was the secret to your success this week?
Yeah, I felt like I had the lead in hand most of the game, and Neil just would not go away. Las Vegas just kept coming back. I was up by 14 at one point, but he kept fighting. And I know coming in, I was second in pass defense, and he was ranked first. And I knew whoever got the big plays would basically take this one. I only completed 50%, but I was able to hit the ones that counted, in the crunch time. But kudos to Neil. He's much improved, and I definitely think he's got a good shot at the playoffs.
All right. Next up, we have Atlanta hosting Washington. And I would definitely say that this was probably upset number 2 because I think I know that Sporting Books had this game as a 14.5 for Washington, but Atlanta pulled this one out 28-20. Donovan.
Yeah, wow, this is totally unexpected. I mean, any team can win on any given day, but the fact is that Atlanta just dominated the passing game on both sides of the ball. It was pretty amazing. Because I always consider, Washington to have a pretty good pass defense. Jerry gets a lot of interceptions. He plays, real solid defense. But, this just wasn't his day. Dean came in with a good game plan and took it to him. Hats off to you.
All right, Dean, what'd you do this week, Coach?
Well, I changed the offensive profile for one. And like I said, I did some work on the defense in the offseason. That's starting to show some improvement. And the defense played pretty well overall, even though you remember the game, my team went up 14-0 and then immediately gave up those 14 points. It was a tight game. But there were a total of 5 interceptions thrown in this game, 3 of them by Hendon Hooker and 2 of them by Washington's quarterback Murray. So kind of was somewhat offsetting, I guess, in total. But I think the difference was my offense came in with some scoring when it was needed, and on a couple occasions either stopped Washington from scoring or held them to a field goal. I mean, they scored a total of 20, and they scored 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. So, that means basically both teams scored 4 times, but Atlanta scored touchdowns all 4 times. So it was, I know it was easy for that spread to be 14 or whatever it was, given that my team went into this game 0-4, playing probably the second toughest game of the season. If you think of the one that my team plays this weekend, and playing Chicago is probably the toughest.
Yeah. Next game up. I'm trying to find a nice way to lead into this, guys. I can't. Philadelphia hosting New York. I know that when we went through the picks last week, I was kind of like, Philly. And I believe all of us, Steve, Dean, and myself, we all picked Philly. And the last thing I said, if you remember, I said New York. I said, Sean, prove me wrong. Sean proved me wrong. He basically, I'm going to call it what it is. He beat the brakes off of Philly. He ended up taking this one 64-8. Dean.
Yeah, I think it was easy to pick against the Giants this game because the Giants had 2 wins against, as of last week, when you look at it on paper, against a team that had no wins. So when you're only 2 wins, you're 2-2, but you're only 2 wins against a team that hasn't beaten anyone else. It's easy on paper. I don't know what the spread was, but regardless of what it was.
The spread on that one was 6.5 for Philly.
Yeah, so that was a degree of respect for the Giants, but, it wasn't like a 11.5 spread or something. But as for the game itself, this game was one of the last ones that was played. Excuse me. And the weekly results have been uploaded, and I just looked at the score quickly. And then when I saw this guy, I said, wait a minute. I need to watch this entire game. I can't just look at this. Oh, yeah, the Giants beat Philly. No, how did that happen? How did someone lose 64-8? So I actually watched the entire game, even though I already knew what the score was. And is what everything the Giants did on offense pretty much worked. Not everything, but they had several big plays and several key drives. And the other thing I wondered, the defense that the Eagles used, what kind of defense was that? What kind of game plan was that in defense? I mean, I saw plays that I haven't even seen used in ages, and I thought, how did he come up with this game plan? I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, just that defense was actually destroyed by the Giants. Just absolutely destroyed. I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, I watched it and I don't know whether he expected the Giants to do something very different in his scouting or what. I don't know. I mean, just total breakdown. I mean, if I have a game like that, I think that's a total breakdown of my game planning process and where did it go wrong and, what did I guess wrong on in scouting or what did I guess wrong on what kind of plays I selected or what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's like 64 points. It doesn't happen often in our league, and certainly not. Most weeks the Cardinals and Jets don't even score that much. So I don't know. I mean, I was surprised. I know we all picked Philly to win last week, and I thought it might be kind of close, but I thought Philly would have an edge. And you did at the end, like you said, you did challenge Sean to prove us wrong, and he certainly did that.
Yeah, I'm Donovan.
Yeah, you know what? When I saw the score of this, I figured, maybe Philly threw like 6 picks or had, a handful of turnovers or New York sacked them 10 times or something like that. But it just wasn't the case. There's only a couple of interceptions and the sacks were about the same. It was just a manhandling, from top to bottom. And I think sometimes stars just align in the wrong way. You can say it's good coaching or bad coaching, but even the best versus the worst coaching, you don't get a result like this without a lot of things just misaligning for one team. And I think that's what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that was it. I would take that whole playbook and just throw that whole thing out. Profiles, throw it out. I don't know. Yeah, this is one of those things like in the NFL, the coach says, yeah, we're just going to throw this tape away. We're not even going to review it. We're going to throw this tape away and just move on to the next week. So that's it for that one. Next game up, we have Green Bay hosting Minnesota, and Mitch's favorite team with the pom-poms. I still got to throw my little Mitch in there. Ended up taking this one 38-22. Donovan.
The yards were closer than the final score indicated, but I don't think Minnesota, was in any, chance of losing. They led from start to finish. Green Bay played catch up the whole time. What surprised me was that, I always think of Minnesota as being like a strong pass defense team. And today they were just extremely efficient on the offensive side of the ball. And then running as well. They're really well balanced, and Green Bay just couldn't find their footing and just played catch up the whole game.
Dean.
Yeah, we watched this game in Discord, and this was kind of a fun game to watch. And Shuggy and Barney had been going at it with a bit of trash talk, and they've been doing that during the week. And Shuggy had been posting stuff like this is beat Minnesota week and stuff like that. And before the game, Shaggy said to Barney, he said, "Do you have any of those pillows?" And
Yeah.
those, and he said, "You need to get one of those because your butt is going to be beat so badly. You need to sit on one of those." So they were really. It was fun. It wasn't like mean spirited, ugly trash talk. It was kind of fun trash talk, and they were going at it. The Vikings dominated this game for the first 3 quarters. They played solid defense. They played good offense. They just dominated the first 3 quarters. And then when it looked like it was going to turn into something looking like the Giants-Eagles game, Green Bay suddenly roared back and scored 22 points, all of them in the fourth quarter. But it was too little too late. They even recovered a couple onside kicks at the end there to go on that little scoring binge that they went on. But Minnesota was just too far ahead at that point. So the score makes it look a bit more competitive than it was. But, I suspect the second matchup between these two teams, because they will play again, is going to be a tough matchup, and they're both going to put some effort in trying to win the second matchup, no doubt.
Okay. Last game that we have up for this week, we have San Francisco hosting Seattle. If you just look at the stats, you would think Seattle won it, but what's more important is what's on the scoreboard, as San Francisco took this one 21-17. Dean.
Yeah, it was either last season or the season before. I played the 49ers and dominated them statistically, but they won on the scoreboard. And yeah, apparently this was one of those games. And, the 49ers win and lose some close games, and this is an example of that. But, they scored the 3 touchdowns and outscored Seattle, and that made the difference ultimately, even though statistically, yeah, look at that, 432 to 225. 77 total plays to 50. And, although the 49ers had more return yards, they did enough to win, and they did win, and that's what counts ultimately.
Yep, definitely. Donovan, what do you got?
Well, Mark, you shut down his running game, and that's going to, win 9 out of 10 times. You completely shut him down. And he wasn't terribly efficient passing either. I mean, he just was average. But I guess he, just kind of came up with the key turnovers and made the key plays when they mattered. And, for you, it must be pretty frustrating. But, I know you'll bounce back, but again, it's just one of those things. Sometimes it's out of your control. But the game it ended in a weird way on that fumble that kind of ended the game. The NFL has this weird rule that if it's earlier in the game and it's on first, second, or third down, that you can advance that fumble. But if it's late in the game, last 2 minutes of the game, then it's just a dead ball, and that's how it ended.
Yeah, I saw that and it had me scratching my head like, wait a minute, how come the game just ended like that? And I had to go back and check. Yeah, so you had that. There was I think there was another fumble that I had in the game. And there was the interception in the end zone. So basically, we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, pretty much. So, but you got to pick it up, learn from it, see what we can toss out, and then go ahead and continue to move forward and find something else to move up to and keep it going. So as we come to wrap up the Week 5 games, we're going to pivot over to our middle segment, and that is having a chat with our guest today, Donovan Lee, head coach of Pittsburgh. So I think I'll ask a couple questions, and then I'll have Dean jump in if he has some questions he want to ask. So I think usually when we have a guest on, I always start with the first question. What is your history with the FP Pro Series? When did you start? What leagues were you in? What drew you to the game?
Oh man, yeah, I was happy to find you guys because this was something I would pick up like every 3 or 4 years and kind of boot it back up and mess around with it because I played it pretty heavy back in the day. I talked to a lot of the guys in the early PNFL, and I didn't play in that league, but I played in a lot of other head-to-head leagues, SMFL, WAFL, and was commissioned on a few occasions. So I knew the stock stuff really well, but then when I started testing against, the more modern plays, those plays really suck pretty bad. So I was real happy to find you guys and didn't know how it would be to kind of acclimate to this, PPP type of format, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
All right. Dean, what questions you got for him?
Yeah, how do you compare this league to the leagues that you were in the past? And how was your experience been in comparison to the old league?
The biggest takeaway is the stability is top notch, and that's obviously one reason you guys have sustained for so long. You don't have coaches jumping in and out, and I think part of that is because we're all older guys. We're a lot more mature than we were 20 years ago. Let's be honest. We're not as emotional and getting irritated and just kind of like jumping over something else. And I think we appreciate this game for what it's worth. Back in the day, we kept thinking this game's going to keep going on. It's going to, rival Madden and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, it hit, the 99 version, and it just collapsed. And, so now I think we appreciate it for what its value is.
Yeah, the 99. That was the one that was just horrendous out the box. They pushed it out and, we'll patch it later. And it's like, yeah, you're not patching that. You're just not patching it. And they just called it a day after that. So, my question to you, is, with the success that you've had with your team this season, what do you attribute it to? What, are some of your, your approach to it this season compared to the previous season and strategizing and getting yourself prepared for your opponent from week to week?
I think what I think back to is when I started, and I know I'd had success in all the leagues I'd been in, and I thought, oh, I can do pretty well. I know this game inside and out and whatnot. And I was talking to Rich, and he kind of laughed, and he's like, "What makes you think you're going to do so well? This is a whole different type of beast." And he was 100% right. I had no clue what I was doing at first, no clue in the drafts, just kind of like in the dark, and I'm lucky I won as many games as I did, just out of sheer luck. But I decided, when I started, that I was going to try to look at the best offense and the best defense. And at that time, I think it was Washington on defense and New York on offense, and kind of try to emulate what those guys were doing. And it was a lot more challenging than I expected. I think even into last year, I needed to win one game to go to the playoffs. That's it. And I ended up dropping the last four in a row. And I just was banging my head against the wall, because every time I think, okay, I got this figured out. I understand how to scout these things. I understand, what I'm doing wrong. I'm correcting it. And, I still lose. I go, oh, I'm so frustrated. I just want to kind of, throw my hands in the air and walk away. But I kept thinking back to something that Thomas said, and that's just be patient. And I would tell that to any new coach or anybody that's coming in and struggling, is that, just be patient, because I'm learning things, and I'm sure you guys are too. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but you continually learn things. And I could put another 100 hours into this and probably wouldn't be satisfied with, some of the things I'm doing. But at this point, I think I have kind of a system that's working so far, knock on wood, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I would ask you, when you look at all the other team owners in the league, which one do you think, just purely as a general manager, is the most effective at being a GM? And what about what they do would you like to emulate or try to be more of with your own team? And which one of us do you think is just, as far as coaching and game planning, is the best in that aspect? And what are the things that you see them doing that you would like to improve on?
Well, I mean, I think the GM is I really think Justin is the best at what he does, putting rosters together and being shrewd in his trades. And he obviously has a reputation. What I didn't realize is I initially thought he was winning just basically on talent. I didn't realize he really was a good coach, and he is. But aside from him, I mean, I've tried to pattern myself after, New York and seeing what Thomas does. And last year, I think it was about mid-season, I was getting ready to play him, and I prepared for him for the previous 3 weeks before that. And because I wanted to be competitive, and I beat him. And, he put up 62 passes that game, and I was without my cornerback number one. He was injured that game, and I still won it pretty handily. And that was 3 weeks of game planning for that. In the meantime, the week before, I didn't plan for Anaheim at all. Thought they were a weaker team, thought I could just walk in there and beat them, and Shuggy whipped my butt. So, it really just does come down to preparation. And that's it. And I think right now, though, the trick for me is to kind of minimize the prep time and still retain the effectiveness, because we all can't put in 10 to 20 hours every week. We just can't do it. So it's kind of like trying to be efficient and effective in the time you have.
Okay.
I agree with that. That's definitely true, because even in some instances, I know some of us have gone weeks where we put quite a bit of time and then still didn't get the result. So I think it's a matter of how effectively you use that time and not just necessarily spending a lot of time.
Right. Now, and go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say, with the different tools that we have that's out there to help you get your prep, you have the Logger program, the WS Log Stats, and then there's the program that Brian came out with. I forgot what he had called it for the database. I'm assuming that's something that you really heavily rely upon. Maybe not all three of the programs, but using those programs is going to help you prep for your upcoming games, correct?
Yes, yes, yeah. I use the WinLog stats on the logger program, and I'd like to use Brian's stuff here soon. But as of now, I kind of got in a groove, and I'll just stick here until things don't start working out, and then I'll maybe readjust. But one other thing I want to add too is that you're asking about the league. What sets it apart is I think the parity we have is pretty amazing. Um, like I said, last year I was one win away from making the playoffs, and I didn't get that last win, and I ended up picking fourth in the draft. That says, how close it is to being a good team or a lower team. The parity level is just so, across the board, very, very competitive. So it never feels like you're out of it. Feels like you can win on any given week.
Yeah.
And I know there's some criticize it, but the fact that our ratings are fairly close is also why we have a big part of why we have that level of parity, because otherwise you probably would see some higher scores. 60.8 would probably happen more often if our ratings weren't as close as they are overall.
Yeah, I think that would, the closeness. And I think we had this discussion as well, Dean, where, the stats can kind of be pretty much close to each other. So then it comes down to how you get your plays, which plays you selecting, setting your profile up, because that little edge is what's going to set you apart. And obviously doing all your simming and using all the tools that are available out there. I know I kind of jumped the gun throwing that in there, but just kind of thinking about all the different things that goes into it. That little tiny piece can make a big difference. Just tweaking that one little setting or something to help you plan to get better. Would you agree on that one?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Donovan.
No, that's I agree. I mean, it's the fine details that make a difference in situational football. I mean, last year, my defense was one of the worst in the league. My pass defense was at the bottom, and this year they're at the top. And the personnel is exactly the same. And in fact, I lost my best player in Bosa, the tight end. So I lost my player, but my defense is much improved, and that's only because I'm just game planning for defense, because I didn't do it much last year. And it's not sexy, it's not fun. I think game planning for offense is more enjoyable to me, but I think putting my focus more on the defensive side of the ball is starting to pay dividends.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the key, and I agree with you. It's the offense is much more sexier because you're like, ooh, I can do this to them or do that to them, but then on the flip side, it's like, yeah, I got to look on the other side of the ball, because they can come in. They're probably doing the same thing, looking at the sexy side of their team, which is the offense, of how they're going to tear your defense up. So definitely got to be able to spread it out and look at both of them. I can attest to that personally. So
the defense creates opportunities for your offense.
Yeah, definitely. So as we pivot on over to the final segment, which we always go through, as you guys know, we have our lead pipe lock that we're going to go through for the week 6 games. The spreads on these games this week are kind of high for a lot of them, but we'll go through them. We have a pick'em game I see in there, so we're just going to go ahead and run through all of these. First game up that we have the New York Jets hosting Indy, and they are giving the Jets, of course, 14.5. We are going to start with Donovan, since he is the guest.
Yeah, I know in the past I've seen some games where Tim has played the Jets pretty competitively. I don't expect this to be like that, unfortunately. The Colts have the last ranked pass defense in the league, and against the Jets, I think that's just bad news. I expect the Jets probably to cover the spread.
Ooh. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I'm picking the Jets to win and probably cover the spread as well.
Okay. I think I will make it a three-peat right along with you guys, as I will go with the Jets as well. Next game up, we have Houston taking on LA. This is showing Houston having 10.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think Mitch is going to be spending too much time in the skiff this week, and Steve is going to be getting his stuff back together. I'm predicting an upset by the visiting team, predicting a win by the Chargers.
Okay. Donovan.
I'd like to see the LA win just for my own benefit, so I can extend a lead over the Oilers. But I don't know. Chargers got the number 2 defense, so they're pretty solid. And Mitch is away, but I thought that would lose him the game last week, and it didn't. So I can't bet against him. I'm going to go with the Oilers, but I think it'll be closer.
All right. I will concur with you on that one. I know that Steve is going to tighten it up a little bit, but I still give the nod to Houston, but it's going to be much closer than 10.5. Next game, we have New England hosting Pittsburgh, and they are giving Pittsburgh 10.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think New England is going to achieve that rare feat of losing the first 6 games this season. So I think Pittsburgh will be the visiting team, and they'll play tough, and I think they'll get the win.
All right. Coach, what do you got for your boys? What do you got with your boys this week?
Knock on wood, I have not beaten Mox yet. He's beaten me both times I played him. And 10.5 is way too much. I have never blown anybody out in a game. I've been blown out many times myself, but my wins are always close, it seems like. So I'd like to say I'll take this game, but I think he'll put up a good fight, and hopefully I'll win by a touchdown.
All right. I got to concur with you guys as well. For Mox, hey, I know what it's like to be on that major losing streak at the beginning of the season, because your guy over here was you're in the same boat that I was in last season, if you guys remember. And it gets frustrating, and you're trying everything you can, or at least in my case, I was trying everything, and it just wasn't working. You'll get that first victory, but it's not going to be this week. I'm going with Pitt. It'll be closer than the spread, but I'm still giving the nod to Pittsburgh this week. Next game up, we have Jacksonville hosting Denver, and I believe they are giving this one to the spread is going over to Denver at 6.5. Donovan, what do you got?
I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. Both these guys run more effectively than they pass. So I don't expect them to light it up on the scoreboard. Might be a little closer than 6.5 since the Jags are the home team, but I'm still going to give the nod to the Broncos by 3.
Okay, going with the Broncos. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this is another game where the visiting team is not going to be so nice to the home team. And, if the home team could find a way to get the ball to George P. more often, it might help. But I think the visitor wins. Denver will win this game, I think, by more than a touchdown.
Okay. I think I'm going to take this one. I want to call for an upset, but I'm going to go ahead and ride with you guys on this one. I played Brian. I think he's getting his feet underneath him. I'm going to call for Denver on this one, and I'm going to push my chips in on this one this week, and I'm going to pull my lead pipe lock in on this game. Next one up, we have Washington hosting Philly. Now, the question that I have is, which Philly team is going to show up. Washington has a 13.5 point spread on them. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say on this one. So we're going to start with Donovan.
Both these teams are coming off losses. I think the difference is I think Jerry rebounds on this is going to win this game. If Philadelphia loses by less than 50, then that's trending up. So good for them. But I really do think the Redskins will take it pretty handily.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I think sometimes when a team loses, a loss is a loss. And then sometimes when a team loses, it's much more than a loss. I remember a few seasons ago, my team started out this season 2-1, was looking pretty good and pretty competitive. And I believe played the Jets week 4, and it was a home game. I thought my team had a chance of winning. And my team absolutely got destroyed. And then sometimes a loss just has a way of really just totally deflating your team, and it has more of an effect than just a week. It may affect you for several weeks after that. And that loss, that was that kind of loss last week that the Eagles sustained. And yes, Washington did get upset last week, and Jerry will get things back together and he'll turn it around. But what the Eagles lost was more than a game. I mean, they were just destroyed. So that spread isn't even enough. Washington is going to win quite easily, and Washington is going to definitely be back on track. Philadelphia, I think, will take at least a few weeks to recover from what they sustained last week.
Last week, last week I picked Philly. This week I'm picking Washington. I think I know that Philly will turn around. It'll be much closer than 13.5, but I think Washington's going to take this one out. Even though they did lose last week, I think that I think Washington's going to take this one with a much closer one, maybe by 7 points. So next game we have is our only pick'em this week. We have Las Vegas going up against the Giants this week. Dean.
Yeah, this game is a pick'em, and I am going to pick it. I've been extolling the virtues of Las Vegas almost as much as Mitch likes to extol the virtues of Minnesota. But the Giants, I think, really showed us something last week and showed us what that team can accomplish. And this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be very close. But I'm going to say put your money, your second mortgage, max out your credit cards, all that stuff that Mitch likes to say. Put your money in the Giants. The Giants are going to win a close, tough game here. But it's my lead pipe lock of the week. Giants will win at Las Vegas.
Ooh, big one. Donovan.
Yeah, I gotta disagree. I think the Giants are going to be so worn out from running up and down the field last week. They're just going to be exhausted, and the Raiders will be much fresher. And home team's going to win. Going with Raiders.
Oh, going with the Raiders. Okay. Let's see here. The Giants did put up a good show last week. This is a tight one. I'm going to go with Vegas this week. I'm going to put my chips on Vegas and see what happens. All right, so we are down to our final 3 games. There's 2 locks that are put in. We have one more still sitting out there, so a little heads up. Next game up, we have Chicago hosting Atlanta. They are giving Chicago 14.5. Donovan.
Yeah, I mean, conventional wisdom says Chicago's going to rebound and come off that tough loss, and Justin's going to bear down and take Dean out. But, wouldn't it be a great story if, the Falcons, who just a few weeks ago were kind of counted out for the season already, wouldn't it be great if they came back and they won this game, two big upsets back to back would be pretty amazing. That being said, I'm going with Chicago.
Okay. Dean.
Well, you know why they call it conventional wisdom? Because it's very conventional. And conventions are made to be broken, so I'm calling for the upset.
Okay. Going for the, well, yeah, you got to go for the upset. Let me see here. They have been beaten. You have the ability to take out a top player, so top tier team, I know that. I'm sorry, not this week. I'm going to take Chicago this week. I think it'll be a close game, much closer than the 14.5, but I'm going to take Chicago this week. Next game up, we have Minnesota taking on San Francisco. They are giving Minnesota 7.5. Dean.
Yeah, San Francisco will have to play much stronger than they did last week, and they're going to be the visiting team this week, and Minnesota still very much needs this win. I think the home team gets the win. So on behalf of Mitch, I'll do the cheering for the Purple Dinosaur and Purple Rain and all those other cliches you want to throw in. Minnesota wins.
All right. Donovan.
Yeah, the 49ers offense was dismal last week against Seattle, and I can't see them picking it up against the Vikings this week. Vikings are also second in the league in passing, and, Charlie's gone. This is my lead pipe lock of the week. We're going with the Vikings.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm going to have to take one of those purple pom-poms and throw the outfit on right along with you guys. I'm taking Minnesota this week. I'm sure Charlie put something together before he headed out on his hiatus, but I got to go with Minnesota on this one as well. Last game of week 6. It's the closest spread that we had. Well, the pick'em was the other one, but the spread is 3.5. We have Seattle hosting Green Bay this week. Donovan.
This might be a back and forth affair. I want to see you, Mark. I think Seattle's, got a good chance to take this game. But the Packers are all over the map. They'll come out, look like crap one week and look, pretty good the next week. Remember, they put up 450 passing yards against Washington. They still lost the game, but they moved the ball very efficiently. I think this might be Shuggy's week, so I'm going to go with the Packers for a little bit of an upset.
Okay. Dean.
Yeah, I think Seattle's going to play some pretty tough defense this coming weekend at home and play enough offense. I think Seattle wins a close game. It would be tough and close.
All right. For me personally, I definitely got to get the team ready, get them prepped up. Lost to Denver. We were projected to win that one. And then basically gave the game to Frisco. And, we're sitting at 1-4. So this is definitely a must-win game for us. So obviously, go Hawks. We gotta lock it in and put it together and get ourselves on the right track again. So.
Mitch would say, you're the best 1-4 team in the league.
Yeah, best 1-4 team in the league. Got to get it going. So, all righty. So, as we are coming up to wrap up this week's games or close ourselves out for the week, definitely I want to thank, excuse me, definitely want to thank Donovan for coming on. and sharing his insight and understanding with the league or with his time with the game, and wishing him the best of luck this week and for the rest of the season. So as we go around the table one last time, any final words that you have going into week 6, Donovan?
I just want to tell you guys, really, I appreciate you guys doing the show and putting this time in every week. I listen to the show when I drive long distances, and it's really been enjoyable. So I appreciate you having me on the show, and look forward to continuing.
All right. Well, thank you. We enjoy doing it. Sometimes it can be a challenge, but overall, I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy you guys. I like that you guys enjoy listening to it, and hopefully, we can continue to keep bringing some more things to you guys that you guys like to hear. Dean, any final words before you take us home?
Yeah, last week we certainly had some interesting games and a couple of surprising results, and I think this coming week will be the same, and there'll be some really fun games to watch in Discord on Friday night. So that being said, there's only one other thing left to say, and that is, let's get it.
Let's do it.